The Stellaris dev diaries have shown us a bunch of new features coming in 4.0, from quality of life improvements such as Precusor selection, the Databank, and species modification changes, to a new origin and a complete rework of trade and even pops. And there's a whole bunch more. In this video, we will delve into the dev diary that is giving us an update on how things are coming along and what we can expect from the open beta. There's also nuggets of new information to these changes. Let's dive right into it. Hello everyone! We're still hard at work getting the features we've been describing into the game, but this week we're giving you a bit of a progress update, and I'll be giving my thoughts on what shape they'll be in when we begin the open beta. As with everything over the past couple of months, all of this is still subject to change. This is the big thing to note. It can all change. We've successfully gotten past the critical milestone of the game is no longer completely broken, and things are starting to come together very nicely in bold. That is a good sign. So in Dev Diary 367, we got shown Precusor selection, Databank, species modification, and ship designer. The first three are fully functional and will be in the open beta. So Precusor selection, Databank, and species modification we can mess around with. However, ship designer, not so. The Databank still has some placeholder graphics on some buttons, and we're planning on adding more entries, but it's good enough for the open beta. This is a new screenshot, so it really goes into depth about everything. You got colony upkeep, for example, colony ship, which probably should definitely be there, and like colony view blockers. This is just really good for the newer players, and information is all here and you don't have to go to the wiki, hopefully. Again, there's a whole debate about games having most information on wikis and if it's good or not, but I think this doesn't hurt having it in the game. The work for the ship design changes was done in the Q2 DLC branch to support the release, and while it's functional, it will not be in the open beta, but will be in the final release. This sounds like not a lot. We've basically confirmed, well, it's obvious they're working on a DLC because it's Stellaris, but yes, there is a DLC coming. It's going to be in the final release, which means 4.0. The next thing focus on here, support that release. So whatever changes or DLC, some form of ship edition sounds like it's coming. Why would they need to have it in that branch to support it if not? We don't really know what it will be. I've seen a lot of people speculate about bio or spiritualist because we got the machine big DLC last year. We'll just have to see. I'm interrupting right now because I know, Greg, I've told you before, you're not subscribed. You've been watching all the dev diaries. I don't understand it. Just click the subscribe button. You enjoy it. It's free. And now you've interrupted the video for everyone else. So Greg, thank you for clicking the button. Back to the video. In Dev Diary 368, we got pacing adjustments, galaxy generation, leader traits, event message notifications, empire focus, and the timeline, hard reset, and achievements. Wow, we covered a lot in that dev diary. Yes, we did. All of these are functional, but like the ship designer, hard reset is in a different branch and will not be present in the open beta, but will be in the final release. So we could maybe analyze that sentence a bit more. Hard reset is similarly not in the beta because of ship designer. Does that mean hard reset is pulling functions from whatever the DLC had? Who knows? I believe this origin was free? I can't remember. I know it's been added to Synthetic Dawn, so it doesn't necessarily follow our same logic because it needs to be compatible with Synthetic Dawn. Okay, the timeline shows a number of important milestones and is generally functional. There's still some polish to be done here, but I feel like it's in a good enough state for the open beta. Oh, we've got more information. So what we were shown before was basically this whole left side without the completed focus tab. However, we weren't shown all this juicy stuff, like first precursor milestone. United Nations of Earth has discovered a precursor on that date. Then we can see explorations 40 out of 200, which they're focusing on. That's why they've got more science stuff, which are a bigger tier, so they're worth more. And it's just stuff that you kind of get done, but kind of guides the player in ways to go. Like assign a scientist as a governor is a really good goal because I don't think people realize you can do that, and it kind of pushes a new player or even an experienced one to experiment with that and then hover over stuff and see, oh wow, they actually give more science. Or like sign a research agreement. What is a research agreement? Let me go check. Oh, this gives us benefits to text we've researched or they've researched. Then on the right, you can see all your completed ones. Get a permanent research blank. Don't know what that means. Survey a system. Yeah, I think as experienced players, we're not going to mind too much, but this just helps newer players. Many of the basic focus tasks are in 2. along with some of the progression rewards for completing them. We've added a couple of new technologies to use as awards, such as existential campaigns, a tier 5 society tech. What? They're just adding a new tech like that? A few new techs. What does this do? I need to know. Tier 5 as well, so that's quite a late game tech. I'm very interested. Maybe those more experienced players will have to do these tasks to get whatever these techs are. I'm a bit worried that you can only get this tech through doing the tasks. I guess you can reroll and stuff. It might be a bit annoying. We'll see how important those techs are. Still to do are tasks for non-standard gameplay styles. And we haven't moved things like Form Federation out of diplomatic traditions yet. So they did say about maybe doing that, but it sounds like they are going to, they just haven't yet. But yeah, non-standard gameplay styles could get affected. What if you want to do civilian only run? Currently, almost all of the focuses relate to the base game only, but it's good enough for now. We'll have more in the actual 4.0 release. I can imagine there's a lot of catching up to do with this. There's so many origins, different playstyles, different civics that might need custom ones. I don't know if they're going to do that, but I think it would be cool to help newer players as well, to have ones themed around civics and origins, so that you're like, oh, I need to use this because it comes with the civic or origin. That's just my headcanon. Achievements no longer require Iron Man. You don't have to rub it into my face. The use of any debug commands disables them for that run. Good. If I had to suffer, so do you. We haven't updated them to the new systems yet though, so getting things like 100 pops on the planet is trivially easy. Ah, yes, because the pops numbers is scaled up by 100. In Dev Diary 369, we looked at trade and logistics and the mammalian portraits. Most but not all of the features described in Dev Diary 369 are in a functional state. Trade is a normal resource that is shown in the top bar. There's logistical upkeep on ships for local planetary deficits, and it has replaced energy as the market resource. So the main bulk of stuff has been updated for the beta. You can see here trade is getting produced from jobs and 2 from Starbase, and then ships are consuming 0.15. Okay, it doesn't seem like much, but I'm guessing that's only 3 ships, so each ship's worth 0.05. And if I actually just read ahead, we can see the singular ship that's worth 0.05, as well as energy and alloy upkeep. So ships will just be generally more expensive, which I think is a good thing, because there's too many ships late game, which also cause lag, as well as pops. So to support it, you're going to need more resources, which is going to slow down production, hopefully. We've not yet completed the entire trade economy for gestalts, but they will have some baseline generation to handle this from their maintenance drones for the open beta. So if you do play gestalts, you're basically just going to get a baseline. You won't be able to produce much. So don't play gestalts in the beta, because it's not done. A million friends are done, but like hard resets are in their own development branch and will not be present in the open beta. Unfortunate. In Dev Diary 370, we looked at pop groups and workforce, colonization, and civilians. This is the core of what we're interested in testing during the open beta. Pops have been converted to using the new pop group system, and most aspects of workforce are functional. We're still going through the various jobs and updating them, and some of the weirder stuff in Stellaris, like for example, permanent unemployment, hasn't been worked on yet. Broken Shackles is hilariously broken right now. It's in the name after all. Yeah, because of simultaneous growth and getting all the pops, it probably goes crazy. Multi-species pop growth is working, but we haven't made xenocompatibility pool different species together yet. So we do have a GIF here, and we can see in the current population, different species are growing their workforce or population at a different rate. Even the specialists, the workers, the civilians, and the rulers of the same race grow at different rates. Okay, I thought it was just going to be an entire population, but it looks like they're pooled into different groups as they're growing. We also get a look at the new management screen here. Nothing too new. I guess things had to be moved around because the planet summaries changed. We do have when we've colonized the planet, which I think's a really cool addition for any people who like the story, looking back at your empire. The planetary features have been moved to here, which I think makes it more obvious, because you did have to click the feature tab before and some people didn't know that that existed. There are a dash and a 0. I'm presuming maybe it updates, but it's not to say how much it's growing by, if it's declining, but they do not mention that, so who knows. Your homeworld starts with an extra 2,000 pops, most of whom start as civilians. This number is subject to change based on our internal playtesting and the open beta. So in terms of what we're used to, that's an extra 20 pops which is a lot. Civilians will produce us the trade and also will migrate from your capital to your planets that you sell, because it's going to be harder to initially populate planets. I think we might see a massive shift in the meta where you no longer want to just settle everything that you can, because the pop growth had a baseline on each planet. There are no baselines now, which we learned from that dev diary, so you can go to 0 everywhere if you got too many pops, I guess. However, that math works. In dev diary 371, we looked at planet UI and zones, the surface UI, Ecumenopoli, and habitats. This is the other big part we're still working on. The back end for the new mechanics is mostly complete. We're still doing the design side implementation on the new jobs, zones, and buildings. The actual surface UI is still very much a work in progress. It's getting to a functional state, but isn't near the polished level the designs you saw in the dev diary. Because remember, those were art mockups, not actually functional in the game. It's likely to be a part of the way there, but not complete at the start of the open beta. Special planets like habitats and Ecumenopoli are unlikely to be fully implemented for at least the first part of the open beta. We've completed tying habitat maximum development directly to the size of the deposits in the system, but haven't had a chance to recreate their districts or zones using the new system. So it looks like the beta is going to be very much testing workforce first, while they're still implementing all the jobs, because they basically had to recreate most jobs from civics and stuff, and there's a lot there. So you can really see the pain that mod makers are going to have to go through if they have a big mod. Performance. In a couple of threads, I mentioned that we're not taking full advantage of some of the new model's performance benefits. Many things are still being calculated daily rather than monthly, and we're still largely single-threaded. We plan to keep it that way for the first couple of patches of the open beta, because it will make it significantly easier for us to spot and fix any major issues that crop up. As a reminder, the 3.11 tech open beta found an issue like that with the breakthrough technologies. And finding these sorts of fundamental problems is my primary desire for the open beta. The Stellaris community is pretty exceptional at providing general feedback with the information provided by dev diaries, but a week of open beta testing will hammer the systems harder than we could do with months of internal testing. This is like very important to hammer home. Firstly, optimization. I have seen these comments in the dev diaries. It makes sense. It might not from the surface of it, but you've got to think that our current pop system has been optimized as much as it can over, I don't know how long it's been. It was implemented in 2.2 or 3.14. They've done a lot of optimization of that system. This system that we're moving to has basically no optimizations, still is doing it daily and single-threaded, and there's not much difference in performance. I think that's a good thing, because if it can run at least on the same par as what we've got now, imagine what happens when they optimize it to multi-threading, monthly checks. It's going to speed up drastically. And again, trying to fix bugs or changing systems, you don't want to optimize it, as it's going to be an absolute pain to change anything if we find bad issues. Because if you remember in the 3.11 tech open beta, breakthroughs were not good. Some people kind of mentioned it in the dev diaries, but when lots of people got their hands on it, it just felt bad, too punishing, and there was no point researching pretty much. So this open beta, we'll see what's good and what's bad. Maybe we need a flaw in growth. Maybe it works fine as it is. That brings us to our last point. So when is it and what's next? I can't quite tell you that right now. This Friday, we'll be evaluating the status of our current build. I'll try to provide a possible timeline for sometime next week. Until then, it's back to the code mines for us. See you next week. So beta wants to be released with their core systems to test. It's not ready yet, but that's fine. We will stay updated, and we will definitely be streaming and testing the system on this channel when we can. So make sure to subscribe and put the notifications on. Now, I fully stress test the current system using a 1000 size grid galaxy. It gets a bit crazy. I tried to survive for 100 years, so go check it out by clicking right here. Goodbye.